As you guys know, I paint action figures on this channel. They often lack paint details and have this basic look to them. In most cases, all they need is a bit of paint here and there for them to look more screen accurate. And so far, that's what I've been doing with the Fantastic Four wave. I've done Reed, Ben, and Sue, and they already look so much more like their movie counterparts. Reed and Ben were pretty easy to touch up. Sue was a bit trickier as the likeness wasn't really there. But Johnny, this has gotta be the worst one in the wave. He just does not look like Joseph Quinn at all. And in my opinion, the Human Torch version isn't any better either. So today, I'm gonna try and see if I can improve these two figures.
Let's deconstruct this figure.
Let's start with the powered down Johnny first. Right off the bat, this pastel blue does not look good on him. The pale blue looks fine on Reed and Ben, but it does not work on Johnny and Sue. And for those who watched my last week's video, you saw just how much better Sue looks with a punchier blue. And the other thing that clearly isn't working is his hair. This figure is clearly based on this concept art, and this hair of his makes him look like a random NPC. I can't tell if he looks like Joseph Quinn or not because of the hair. It just isn't that well sculpted. Look at the back. It's giving Greek statue. I do like the two flame effects they provided. It's very minor, but there's this yellow ombre effect on them. It's a very nice touch. As for Human Torch, I don't like how red he is. Human Torch has never been depicted as bright red in any of the movies. And once again, I can tell this is based on the concept art because he looks just like this image here, including that weird Super Saiyan hair. While I appreciate the fire effects on his shoulders, hands, and feet, I wish they blend with the rest of the body better. Right now they look more like fashion accessories. And speaking of accessories, the lack of accessories is also a bit of a bummer. The two little flame effects are fine for Johnny, but I would much prefer a separate arm that's on fire. As for the other Johnny, as someone who doesn't like using regular flight stands, I wish they included a fire base of some sort so that he can look like he's flying or something. Anyway, fixing these two is going to be quite a challenge today. I'm not that confident at all, but I'm still gonna try. So...
Hello, this is Ken. I like making things. Whether it's repainting my figures or making diorama displays, I love making things look awesome. My goal is to elevate my figures so they can shine on my display. Join my DIY adventure as I ask myself the same question every week. Can I make it?
Let's start with the suit. I'm gonna go over the blue areas with my neon blue paint. I saw a few comments asking me what paint I'm using. I'm not using anything fancy. This is just acrylic paint I got from Dollarama. I'm certain these are not the best paint to use for figures, but I like that they're affordable, and there's a wide selection of colors to choose from. And the best part is, they kinda last forever. I bought most of these years ago, thinking that I'll upgrade once I get better, and run out of paint. But most of the bottles are still pretty full. I've only really replaced a few colors. I've tried other brands here and there, but I always go back to these ones. What was I talking about? Oh right. Long story short, I'm using acrylic paint from the dollar store, and the reason is because I've used them for years by now, so I know how the paint behaves. For example, this neon paint is much sheerer than my other blues. It dries splotchy, which is fine, since I need multiple coats anyway. I am gonna assume it is the same with other brands, but the key is to apply one thin coat at a time. Avoid leaving thick brush strokes, let that layer dry, then add more coats to get a nice smooth even finish. Alright, the blue looks good. Time to add the buttons on the suit. I'm going to use a toothpick and dot those silver details back in. There are also these black pill-shaped details on the sleeves. As for the belt, it's missing quite a bit of paint too. So I'm going to use this as my reference and add those details back with a toothpick. I also want to paint the glove. The palm is supposed to be black, but I understand why they would skip it. I'm going to seal it with a thin coat of glossy varnish. This will also add a bit of shine to it, matching the black that's already on the figure. Next, the watch. It's lacking that metallic sheen, but before I paint over it with the silver, I'm going to add a base coat of black first. This gives the silver a bit more depth, making it look more realistic. And seal it with a glossy varnish too. On to the head. I don't know about you, but I just don't see Joseph Quinn. It's not even the hair, it's the face too. So before I modify the hair, let me see if working on the face helps. There's no point in doing the hair if the face doesn't look like the actor at all. The issue is that Joseph is pretty pale, and there aren't really any distinctive features on his face. So it's not like I can emphasize the lines on his face. What I'll do is that I'll add a hint of facial hair and work on his brows a bit. This is what the painted face looks like. I worked on the eyes a bit more off camera. The good thing is, he looks less like a Ken doll and more like a human. But does he look like Joseph Quinn? I kind of see it, but I also don't. I still can't tell if it's a face sculpt or the hair that's throwing everything off. But I have to say, I do see a hint of Joseph at an angle. Here's what it looks like on the body. Hey, I see it. Do you? Okay, I feel like I should work on the hair now, and give Johnny a movie-accurate hairstyle. I usually only make minor modifications to the hair, like how I gave Matt Murdock and Cersei a little bit of a trim. But I have been experimenting more recently. I redid the 2 Red Hulk heads. Okay, the hair could be better, but I did a pretty good job. Swapping the heads was a challenge though, as the strands of hair could break if I applied too much pressure. Thankfully, Johnny doesn't have a spiky hairstyle. My original plan was to trim just the front side, but it doesn't look right. There's still too much bulk. Looking at reference images, there's not much volume to Johnny's hair, so I just gotta keep trimming and get as close to his skull as possible. Okay, my fingers are really sore, and this is the best I can get it without hurting myself. It still doesn't look right, so I'm gonna grab my Dremel and file it down even more. The reason why I want the hair to be as thin as possible is because I want to redo the hair with epoxy putty. And because Johnny's hair is so thin, I can only use a small amount of putty. Otherwise, it's gonna end up too bulky. I'm gonna start with his bangs. I feel like that's the defining element of his hairstyle. They kinda curl to the side, but they are also pretty straight. Does that make sense? I also don't want the hair to get stuck on the forehead. I want to be able to adjust the shape, and also not ruin the paintwork I've done on the face. Maybe I should have done the hair first. Alright, I'm pretty happy with the shape of the bangs. I'm gonna add more putty to even out the rest of the hair. The putty has a short window before it cures and becomes sticky. Keeping my tools wet helps, but I also gotta be careful not to soak the putty too much, otherwise it'll turn into this slimy texture. Okay, I'm pretty happy with the overall shape. I'm gonna let it cure and harden for a little bit before I sculpt it even more. The putty hasn't fully cured yet. It is still somewhat malleable. So I'm gonna use the silicone tool to shape and add the hair texture. And then I'm gonna use the stiffer tool to add even more details. adding fine lines to mimic the strands of hair. Once I'm happy with it, I'm gonna let it fully cure. Okay, it's been a few hours. The putty is rock solid now. It's now ready to be painted. Blonde hair is hard to nail in my opinion. Painting it gold is fine, but it's not just one tone. There are all these other colors present. So let me try adding a bit of brown here and there to give it more depth. I still find the gold too yellow. So let me try toning it down a bit. Okay, I'm gonna stop here. I feel like I'm gonna make it worse if I keep going at it. What do you think? How did I do with the hair? Does he look more like Johnny Storm from the movie? Before I put the head back on, let me work on the other Johnny first. Here's my plan. I want to retain the translucency of the plastic, but make it more orange. And as we all know, red and yellow makes orange. So I'm gonna dilute the yellow paint with some matte medium, and add that to the sides of the figure. There are very limited images I can find on the Human Torch. But from what I can gather, the sides and the tips of the flames are lighter. It's really hard to capture fire in a three-dimensional form. First of all, fire is kinda like cell shading. It's dynamic. You can't just freeze frame it and expect it to look convincing on a figure. There's also nothing for the light to bounce off of. For example, it will look much more convincing if there's a wall with a fake glow next to him. And lastly, with enough layers, acrylic paint is gonna dry opaque. So this is not gonna be easy. This is what I got so far. He's still pretty red. It may be hard to tell on screen, but the matte medium did not work the way I thought it would. I thought it would make the paint go on smoother, but it's still pretty streaky. So let me try and blend it out with a bit of orange. Okay. I can't tell by making it better or worse. The colors look better. It has more of a consistent look to him. Let me try adding a bit of red too, to give the fire a bit more depth. Okay, let me stop here. I'm happy with it, but he looks quite chalky. I wonder if adding a thin coat of high gloss varnish will help, since translucent plastic tends to have that glossy sheen. Nope, I overdid it. It is too glossy. It's giving hard candy, and I can't really undo this. Great. Let me get rid of the shine by adding a very thin coat of orange, and hope for the best. Alright, we are finally here. Here's Johnny Storm with a haircut. These two look like completely different figures. And it's not like the changes are super drastic either. It's just a punchier blue and a different haircut. Okay, the painted face also helped, but it's hard to explain what I did to his face. And here's Human Torch. Not my best work, but I think my approach was heading the right direction. The figure looks a bit more defined, and has more of a fiery look to him. He's not as red, and the flame on his shoulders, hands, and feet blend with the rest of the body. But he did lose quite a bit of that translucency. Acrylic paint probably isn't the best medium to use. What do you think? How would you approach this figure? Oh, if there's one thing I really like, it's the 4 in his chest. The original 4 looked out of place, as it looked like it was stamped onto the suit. But the painted one looks pretty good. So at least I got something right. Okay, you know what? I'm not gonna be too harsh on myself. I did everything I said I was gonna do. Make the overall figure less red, make the sides brighter, make the flame effects appear more cohesive, etc. Also, it may not be obvious, but it's actually still somewhat translucent. I only added minimal amount of paint to his back. So overall, it's a win. Okay, let's look at the other Johnny. I'm pretty happy with how this one turned out. The colors look great, and the hair looks pretty good too. You can't really tell it was handmade. Like if you told me this was what the figure came with, I would believe you. That said, the bangs could have been sculpted better. I was scared I was messing with them too much, but overall, it turned out pretty good. While I can't say I nailed the likeness, I do see glimpses of Joseph Quinn, especially at an angle. Okay, you know what? The flame-on version isn't that bad. It's growing on me. The hair does give off Syndrome vibes, but it kinda looks good in motion. I thought this was gonna be one of those figures that only look good at a distance at certain angles, but I'm glad to see that I was wrong. With that said, I now got the whole team painted, and they look fantastic. Okay, there, I said it. I've been saving it for this moment. There's this unified look to them, not that the original figures didn't. I just didn't love the muted color palette. It didn't match the actual look of the movie. The addition of Herbie and Franklin also makes this whole group so much more lively. They are definitely a family. Which Fantastic Four figure is your favorite? Out of the box, I would have to say Reed was the best. The likeness is spot on, and those stretchy arms are very fun to play with. But now that they're painted, it's much harder to pick a favorite. I can say for certain that the Human Torch figure isn't my favorite, but he photographs pretty well. My main issue with this figure now is the hair. It now reminds me of a sundae cone. Everything else looks surprisingly okay in photos. The powered down version is superior. My eyes go straight to him. I find that he looks the most like Joseph from this angle. That is why most of the photos are taken like this. I am very happy with how the Fantastic Four turned out. They look cohesive as a group, and none of them sticks out like a sore thumb. Alright, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Give it a like and subscribe to see more content like this. And as always, stay inspired and I'll see you soon. I can make it, so can you.